My full name is Rutendo Harvey. I'm a linguist and recently a visual artist. I had my first show here at Southnord to showcase a writing system that I've been working on, which is called the Mbire Script. And the Mbire Script is a system of writing down Bantu languages, primarily Shona, in a way that involves spirit at the center of the meaning and essence of words. Growing up doing linguistics and learning different languages, even beyond languages that use the traditional alphabet, like Mandarin, for example, and Arabic, I learned that there's a very strong relationship between what we see and what we say, and that when we're mark making or making things to remember, recording things, it's important to also involve the spirit of how things felt and how important they were and their different characteristics. I think there's been of late a huge divide between art and between writing, where one is considered more serious than the other. But yeah, I'm interested in making them more connected and putting more soul into the way that we choose to put things down. So I started working on the Mbire Script when I lived in Portugal, like a year ago. And the point of this was I was frustrated with how difficult it was to read my native language in the alphabet that we use, and the fact that from colonial times we've never thought of using a different way of expressing ourselves. I was tired of this whole narrative, false narrative, that sub-Saharan Africans did not have a tradition of writing. And I was tired of how the academic community would limit what was considered writing and what was not considered writing, and how much was lost in that discrimination between what's valid knowledge and what's not. So, you know, being an academic, but also being very sensitive, I guess, more than I should be with these things, maybe. I wanted to change how the academy was behaving, at least in my own field. So I started to work on these symbols to show other people that you can actually write in other ways and it could work. I think people needed a practical example. So this is how I started painting these. Yeah, at the same time, it was a big part of my own spiritual practice, and the symbols came to me in the form of visions. And so I took them down. It became a study on its own, learning what my own visions meant. So it's been a journey, but yeah, that's how we got here. So the first symbol that I got is now called Mu, which means upright man or standing man, it used to be. And this vision is something that every time I close my eyes, it would be like right in front of me for days. And I didn't understand why. I just kept seeing this random thing. So I decided to write it down or to paint it. I think my first instinct was to paint it. And the more I thought about it, the more it started to make sense, because at the time I didn't have a name for it or a meaning for it. But I started to see the form of the symbol, the form of the letter. And I noticed that the top looked like a head and the bottom looked like legs that were walking. And then I started looking into other like African records, like cave paintings or hieroglyphs. And I found that every time people were shown, they were always walking, or they always had one foot in front of the other. And it seems to be this central part of humanity, or of being a human being, the fact that you have a head that's connected to higher forms of knowledge and consciousness, and you have the ability to think of things like God, even though you're here on earth. But you're also like tied down to the earth by gravity, even though we found our way around that with our ability to move and to walk. So yeah, the symbol combines our knowledge of evolution, it combines our knowledge of creation, about how we're made in God's image. So that was the first symbol that I came up with. I also just liked its form. The second symbol that we can talk about is called essence. It has a square and a circle, and in the middle there's a dot. And this is probably the most geometric of the symbols that are there. And its meaning has a lot to do with the meaning of these shapes. You know, it's very much informed by Platonic thought and the character of these, you know, there's the saying that the universe speaks in numbers and symbols. And squares are sort of this marking off of the earth or of space, time and space. And actually just space, and the circle's more time. And the dot represents like the human being, or the first knowledge that you are alive or that you're conscious. Maybe even the first particle in the universe that knew that it was conscious, and how you're contained in this larger box or thing. My experience in the Southnord Incubator Programme has been amazing, because the space itself is very nurturing. It was my first time putting my work down on paper for other people to see, but it was such an encouraging and stimulating environment. I spent hours and hours in the little back room grinding away at the ink and making all these things, and all around me there was always something to help me think. I loved the experience. It was a nice, safe sort of way to begin, and I think coming out of it I feel even more empowered to try even more work. Yeah. Next for me will be probably showing the same symbols, but in Harare, in Zimbabwe, where people who speak the language can sort of relate to it, and just as an experiment to see how people respond to it and how well it works. It's exciting, it's frightening, but for all the other artists out there, or people who are thinking of making their start, I think that, you know, you're safe enough to be just who you are, and there's no right or wrong way to do it, but you always have to start, you always have to try. So yeah, I just encourage everybody who feels some kind of inclination to be creative to just really take the plunge, but also in safe, encouraging environments that encourage that kind of thought. Yeah.